Hello, and today we are gonna be looking at how we can make, how I say, how we could make an novel story, uh, which could be used in a larger project. So in that case, we are gonna be quickly having a view of technologies like Tweego, Sugarcube, and Twee itself. And before we get actually started, we will need few things. Uh, Number one, we will need to install Visual Studio Code. We can do with any other text editor also. And this is simply for code editing. Um, I find that Visual Studio Code has decent code highlighting, which I will show later on. And how you can actually install it, and access to, so to speak, quick live server, so you can quickly test in live your code. Second part, what you actually need to install is an Tweego. Well, considering this one, pick the versions you need. And at last will be actually the Sugarcube. Uh, it isn't kind of, the sugar cube isn't needed either, so you technically only will need Tweego is as a mandatory part, but you will probably either end up with Visual Studio Code because we will be using terminal inside the Visual Studio Code instead of the one outside. And if you look at here, the reason why you would like the Sugarcube also downloaded, and from here download it, here is like the Twine 2.1 and Tweego. You will probably want to download this one. Currently, I think the Tweego comes with Sugarcube version 2.30, but if you want to upgrade, I will show you how to do that also, so you can always simply upgrade the Sugarcube as needed. Okay, but let's get started. So basically, if you download the Visual Studio and install it, we will later on open it up. I think default settings are more or less fine. Um, but next one is gonna be then Tweego. When you download it and unpacked it, I have unpacked it in to my this specific location. And the second one, I also have downloaded actually the Sugarcube from this one, so I can show you how to upgrade it also. And when all of these ones are done, then in that case, we can go actually deeper inside the Sugarcube, and you see here Sugarcube 2. You simply basically copy it or cut it, and later on inside the story formats you can actually go here and replace the Sugarcube file to the newer version. You simply copy paste it and it will ask you to override things, files, and with that you will be basically done. Okay, let's go back now down to the story. If we want to create a story, the way we work with Visual Studio, we simply will create an initially a folder, and doesn't matter what we name it. I will name it a story. Then if we side click and if you install with an option where you can open with this code editor, you can open up the folder from here and it will open up this one. And this one also has here usually a welcome screen, but in my case it's turned off. And if I'm gonna make this one kinda fit here instead of the folder, because we don't really need it on from this point of view, then we will have here like lots of tabs. You will have much more less if you are first time installing, but basically Explorer is the main place you go as a close, And if you didn't have this kind of open with code option, you can do it manually also from here, like going to the opening up the Visual Studio Code, and here you're going like File, Open Folder, and later on you can same way. So it doesn't matter later on what you use, but Open Folder will do the same thing like Open with Code there. And inside here, we can start creating and organizing the code. Because should we want to do some kind of bigger project, we will probably want to organize things in one way or another. And the way we are going to be organizing is following. We will have a main folder. Inside the main folder is going to be everything what is important in general. It isn't story related, it's just different things like variables will be stored there, CSS, JavaScript files, and the main Twee file, so to speak, will be also stored in there. And later on, if this one is basically done, then this yeah, I actually should let me check quickly while my thought process got a little bit stuck. Do I need okay, yeah, I was just checking. Okay, and when we have this main file, there will be like two folders which we are not technically want to include later on when we are actually exporting the game. It's gonna be maybe main, and then it will be the one with the story component. Currently I'm calling it days because I'm gonna be splitting up the story into the days section, so we can quickly create certain days. And additionally, we will need a folder for images and videos, so we can call it I don't care, we can call it media, or any other name will actually work fine also. And yeah, that's about it. And so I would basically now what I'm gonna do is create some material for the media. Media will be one folder which will need to come with the HTML file. So if it comes, it will work fine just as it is. So I'm gonna be basically saying here and I'm simply copy and pasting. You can simply copy and paste if you have certain path or folder. You can simply drag and drop it. So basically, it doesn't matter how you basically add those images. Either case, you can. The one thing what I would say, I would advise you to separate per days. If it's gonna be a really large project, you probably won't want to work on an, so to speak, full project all the time. You would probably want to actually work on an day basis or maybe a week basis, or depending how much you need time scale as needed. or it can be some other like a per chapter or something else. So how, in a way you could organize the things. Now then, if we have these ones, this is just an images. As you can see, I have here a cake images, a table, and a tree. Just some basically random images, more or less same style wise, as you can see. But yeah, they're just random images. The story won't be anything coherent, so you have to consider that. And now we can actually close this one because it opens up here, so we can actually close it. And we can go now, before we start working here, we go to the extensions, and the thing what we need to search for, if we just Google Twee, and the first option called Twee 2 syntax. Currently, it has been released Twee 3 option, but for us, the Twee 2 will be, well, fine. So we can use this syntax more or less fine. It only doesn't basically allow this optional positioning and size settings, but because this is only a visualizer, basically otherwise the text will be simply black and white, it will be harder to read. If you install this one, it will visualize your Twee files. And second one, what you probably want is called live server. This one. And this one will allow you to quickly test your product in live, so you don't actually have to save it and then look at how it's in the ends up in the website and so on. So you don't actually have to worry. You simply leave it on, and it will basically compile each time the game with a few of our settings, and it will show directly the updates live. And when this one is also fine, then we go specifically to the here, and inside the main folder now, let's focus. After this one is also installed, you should have here install button. It might ask you to restart the system, so basically just restart it and open up again if it happens to be asking you to do that. And inside here, now if we go, we need, and if you don't have these things, don't worry, these are not your worry currently. These are meant for total other things, and if it looks different, it's fine. If it looks visual, it is theming different, you can change the themes. So under preferences, I think it was color theme, and here you can choose any theme you also want to pick. So just pick one of them and go with that. And now that if we have this Twine done, then we can focus actually on coding part. And in the coding part, the most helpful part will be Sugarcube documentation. You might have also Tweego documentation on specifically the story data, story title. This doesn't really matter. The more important part is basically how to understand this part. Everything else is here just a helper one. The main one is Sugarcube documentation, because we are connecting it, these Twee files, importing directly to the Sugarcube, so we are gonna be using that specific syntax. Okay, and so when we are basically creating a main file, so we will say here new file, and let's call it main.tv. And if we go with main.tv, it should go here, and this one, the highlighting mode, will actually show it that it's actually a Twee file. So it understands, meaning this it means the highlighting also works. Sometimes if you misspell the file, you need to manually search it. You must set up from here manually, so to find this file type. But okay, so the syntax highlighting will work. So we can actually now create. The first thing you will probably want to create is story data. And now I'm gonna be heavy using story here. Story data. So okay. Oh no, this one actually doesn't have. Okay, this one will help fine. Apparently it does have uses. So there are special passages what we specifically need to know about. If you look at it, and there is a start. Start actually isn't so important here. And story data is actually important one with if it is required, but we will show how we can quickly get one. Second one is, so don't copy this one, and better is to generate your own. You do it once and after that you don't really need to regenerate it. And here is also a format specified format version. This is optional. It will automatically by default pick the snowman, and the second one will be a format version, which will pick the one which is available or the latest one. And what else? And the start. This start is actually more useful for us than actually the other one, because this one might actually be helpful as generating the correct coding. Now, because of that, we also have here, yeah, let's keep it as it is right now. Let's fill out the story data, and here is, I think it should have also, yeah, it's missing a zoom, but basically it also has option for zoom. This is specifically following the 3.3 version, so because it can be kind of combined, so it might have different variations. There is also a title called story title, so this might be second useful one. So if we write here story title, and same way you will write story subtitle and story author. And when we write here, the first one follows the rules of JSON, and this is actually following the simple, simple text rules. So I can say my grand story. It will be. It is awesome, and we should actually create some kind of test file. And for that, I will create an randomly named, so not randomly. Let's call it simply test. And here, and I'm gonna say hello world. Okay. And here I'm gonna be simply saying start. Okay. Start. Test. And you can also have a zoom if you have certain, if you're later on plan to use visual scripting parts, like visual scripting options integrate with it. So in that case you might need it, otherwise you technically don't need it, so you can kind of skip it if you want, really. And here you need braces only for a text type. If it's, it's a number type, then you actually don't have to put those braces around. Now I will give it a little bit more spaces for future consistency. And when we have this one done, we can actually start working with it. And the way we are gonna be working it is there is thing called terminal, and under terminal I will click new terminal, and inside here what I'm gonna do now is click here and open this one, so I can now simply go inside the Tweego, and inside the Tweego is the exe file. I simply drag and drop it here and it will locate me the right one. So it will give me this one, and after that what I need to do is I need to write O, and if I write O, it means I need specify the output file, and for that it's gonna be index.html. The reason why I want it to be index.html, in that case I don't have to specifically write on the folder area slash and dot file name dot html. With index it will automatically pick that one as a first for the folder. And later, when this one is where I'm gonna be outputting is set up, then second is gonna be these folders basically. So what I'm gonna be saying is basically media, main, and days. And with this one, I click enter, and it will say me, it will offer me, so to speak, okay, story EFT is not found, generating one for your project, and you can basically now simply copy this one, or you can copy this all of these, and it might not be visible, but if you right click it with the mouse you can actually copy it. I'm working on Windows, so it might be slightly different command wise on other systems. And this way it copied, and now that we have this one we can go and continue with the terminal rules. So we can go and click again, and now we should have index.html. If you install the live server, and then you can click here and open with live server, and it will actually open up in my case in browser preview, but I'm closing it down because it's a local server now actually running somewhere. And what I'm gonna do is open my local host, and you basically what you need to write is local host and colon and then the port number. The port number should be visible down here. If you can close the server from here, so if you click here it will cancel this. And if I click enter on here top, you can see it's buffering the whole system. No. Why are you saying you wanting that one? Okay. It should show hello world. Need to seriously? Okay, I will simply open this page in an page which doesn't have history, because I have worked on it once, so I can actually open private one, and inside here it should show me correct. It's because I had worked on a different project. Here it's confusing this day 2 evening part. Okay, and I will copy the Sugarcube part also, so we can actually work quickly here. And same goes for the what it is, and same goes for Sugarcube copied, and Motoslave, the other one. The Tweego and Sugarcube are from the same people. Well, the Tweego is from a smaller group, but basically from the same team. So the consistency of compatibility is quite high between those two. Now, as you can see, here is like multiple options and for coding, and this will be helpful for us. But basically, as you can see, my grand story, and I'm saying hello world. And I can restart the game and it will say hello world. Now we will make something more meaningful and go here and actually start writing stuff. And what we will write is gonna be story menu. The spacing here doesn't have to exist, but it's just for my easier view. I will give it a little bit more space. And right here, a link. And links are basically oftentimes written this way. There's alternative way also by writing a link, but that I will talk about later on. And if you write here stats, and the reason why I wanted to actually do, as you can see, it isn't updating the system actually, because if I actually recompile it, it actually creates here a stats, but only because it's recompiling. If you want it to work without us waiting, we have to add one more tag here. And basically we are adding this these two letters with spacings between them, and add them in the after the Tweego exe. And second thing, if you want to reuse the existing console log, you simply use the arrow keys up and down in order to switch between those. So you can quickly use the old one with slight modification instead of writing it all fully again, as long as you are in the terminal. And if you click enter, it's gonna be saying like it's building index.html, and it's recursively watching those three paths, meaning those three folders, which we kind of want to. And later on, now if I click here, the stats, it's gonna be an error message that it doesn't exist. So we're gonna be creating a stats settings. So stats, and I will put an exclamation mark before. Exclamation mark in the beginning means that it's an actual it's a title sentence, and depending on how many amount of these ones, the lesser important title it is basically. So I will keep it at 2, let's say this way, because the first one level is for my grand story, is the title number 1, so the ones can be title number 2. And yeah, and let's say it's called player stats. And with this one I can actually go hello, oh, there is an error. Okay. Sometimes it fails and says like similar thing. You can always simply rerun it and it should fix it up. After this one, as you can see, it runs. It doesn't, this live functionality works to a certain extent after what it wants to have and refresh. And you can see in the terminal if it actually cancels out. So, and if this one is basically done, well, it's not done, we have quite lots of stats to write, but before we can actually write, we need, let's say, create variables beforehand. Because we cannot write the player stats if we don't have variables themselves. And for that, we will need following. Basically, we will need to create a new file because we don't want to keep it in the same file. So we will create a new file and I will call it defaults. You can call it variables if you want to keep it a variable separately. It doesn't matter how you basically call it. Dot tv, and inside here I'm gonna be saying variables and gonna be using silently. And because I'm using silently, this is basically saying that you don't want to use any spacing or any text which is written inside silently, and this is only meant to be stored inside, how I would say, you simply set the values and change the values inside silently. It's not meant to be shown anything. And inside these variables, you can basically write. And if you notice here, when I here use those double brackets, then now I'm basically using double arrows, and both are specific type of braces, and both are must be in double in specifically when you're working with Sugarcube. Sugarcube. And if you actually go specifically, if you go look at this stats and link, for example, this link variable, I have this general Sugarcube, so it's really long file, and if you want to set up link, so you can actually write link, or you can write some kind of text and link. Text meaning this is the part visible, the link is where it's actually gonna take you. And sometimes you want also a setter, meaning that if you click on the link, the player character is gonna be becoming more stronger. Player character is gonna get hit by a damage. In player character relationship grows with some another character, and so on. So you can use also setters here, and these ones are actually examples. This is just helping shortcut, so more like this way as a setter. We will show it. I don't use this two kind of system, but you can use it. I use more traditional JavaScript style code writing more. You can always write here also, how to say, HTML stuff, so you don't actually have to specifically write links there. And other here is, you can say here, hello. Okay, roll it a bit. It's a menu, so it doesn't. With menus, it's getting a little bit more difficult to add stuff, but there are ways you can work around it. You don't need the subtitle sometimes, you don't need the author sometimes, you can reuse those there. And because I haven't been using it long, I don't know if there is specific tag for that exists, but for might be in the wrong place. Hello? Come on. No. Okay, doesn't matter. Okay, we have this player stats, we have hello world, and we needed to work with the variables. The way we work variables, there are basically two sets of variables. The ones which start with a $sign, and the other ones which start with the underscore. Underscores are basically local variables which are only meant inside the specific story to be run. So basically inside this level, you should be able to run those, but not outside. And currently I'm gonna be using the $sign one and set up the initial values. So let's think that our story is about magicians and their interactions. Really simple way. So we will have certain bit and we can set characters according to that. And first one I will set up is a player, which you can set up, of course, like say like player name equals Sean, and close it up. And well, you can do it this way, but there is better way of doing things because well, you can basically do right this way, player name. Now it's gonna be player fire something, but there is, because these variables will be separated from each other, it's better probably connect them because they're connected to each other in a way that the player actually has a name, player has amount of money, player has an, I don't know, fire magic levels and earth magic levels and so on. So we can actually set up this way properly. And for that I'm gonna here write simply player equals I shouldn't have written this way, and now I will add here braces. I need two braces, one in the beginning, another one in the end, and this one will close with two arrows, so we don't need actually this one now, neither do this one. So, and inside here what we're gonna be writing is basically name colon and it's a JSON format, so if you can Google out so you can find out what it is specifically. Fire colon and level, let's say it's a 0, and yeah, earth colon and this way, and level 0. These are basically default values, so expect them to be, well, uninteresting. Now if we click here, we have this kind of earth level float. We need to comma separate them or we will have issues. And what we also need here is also money. We can say money colon and let's say 50, really low sum, but fine. And with this one we will have already this kind of initial player setup, and we don't have to, this will allow us to how say organize better. So if we now need to actually change it, we actually don't need to write all of these. We can simply write set player dot money, and we will say plus equals, let's say 10, so we will have, instead of 50 it will be now 60. Plus equals means it increases the existing amount, so if you had money on it, so it will increase it. And if you go to the Sugarcube, I hope I will find it. And the operators are specifically here. It's an equals set to 6 apples. Basically plus 1 means set to 6 plus 1, 7, minus 1, and you can multiply it, you can divide it, and you can also use modules, which is basically leftovers after dividing. If you divide full, basically, I don't know, 6 divided by 5, your value is gonna be 1, but if you don't have like in a form of floating point, meaning 1.3, 1.116, I think, 666, then you will use instead this way, that it will basically say divider is gonna be, it's gonna be like looking like 1, 2, 3, 4. It starts from actually 0, so it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and goes down, and it repeats itself. So it never gets to the 5. So the value of 6 divided by 5 is gonna be actually 1, because it goes back to 0 first case, and then it goes to 1. It's like 2 steps, so it's making circles each time it's greater than 1 division. But that's that. Okay, we have a player. Let's set up also a few characters. We can use here also, let's say, arrays if you want. Arrays is gonna be, instead of these ones, it's gonna be in format of these guys. So you can use those other braces to add arrays, array of data. And let's create characters. And set may don't forget the $sign, and equals, like again, because there is lots of data we want to add, and inside here we can start adding. Most of is actually should be similar if you want to also be able to learn magic. So it's gonna be may. Does it have money? You might actually skip it. We can actually set up instead here a relationship, and let's say it starts from 0, and it might have some other data which is specific to this character. It doesn't matter how we name it. We can name it other, we can name it various stuff. And the naming doesn't currently matter. And inside here I will set up a list of different. So let's say we need to check if she met on day 2 with the person, and we default it to some value. And don't forget the commas here. You don't need the comma if it's the last element, but you need the comma if it's not the last element. And we will simply copy, and let's create also Eddie, rename it to Eddie, and we got fires done. We don't need the other stuff, so it's fine if it's like this now. Okay, and with this one we set up a few defaults. There may be much more of these, but currently we have only these, so we don't really care about other stuff because we want to keep it minimal. Inside the defaults we can also add other things like, I don't know, maybe create an area for the widgets if you want, and these are also interesting things which I'm not going to be showing, but you can create templates for the widgets inside here and then later reuse them. And the widgets naming is it's your choice. Same goes for the variables. You can name it variable var. It doesn't matter. You cannot name it var, but you can name it the other ways. Okay. Now we have player stats, so we can actually come back here and test it up. And the way we can test it, we can say equals. So it's double, and here we write equals. It can be actually written also in longer form in print, but we will go with equal sign, and inside this equals, I think it's actually shown here somewhere. This one is the expression, and this way you can actually add it inside the text. You found that much of gold, or so on. In case of R, we will set up, we will write this way, name, this way, and inside the name we will write now equals $sign player dot name and close. And the one thing I also want to add here is it's a little bit down here, but I think it was somewhere specific to set up bold and other colors. I keep forgetting which is what it is. Let's see if I can write bold. No? Strong. Okay, I found it. The style. So you can actually use this way also, so this way. Or you can write the HTML style. This is totally okay also, so it will work. Either one, these will work. This is shorter, that's why I'm writing this one. I ended up with a 3. So now if I look my stats, okay, it's malformed. It sometimes malforms when you are actually trying to create something, and if it currently says an error, which is what we actually want, the player name doesn't know, because we don't know what is the player name. We need to set up this variables initially, so what we need to do here is during the start we need to say include, and inside the include we can simply write test. Come on. Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm testing it. Okay, I understood what variables. Fine. Not this markup. I was wrong. Does it work? It works. Yes. We simply write the name of this one. If you need, you might need those. It accepts both in this format and in what it is, this between those signs. So you can pick either of these. If you have names which are consisting of multiple letters, in that case you might need it. But yeah, now we have variables, and because of that the stats started working. We have now name John, and what we actually want is now copy it, copy, say money and player money. We don't have to specifically say to string format, and as you can see it's 60 because it counted from 50 from here and increased it by 10 from here. So we can use it this way. Okay, and same we gonna do for the magic part also. So fire and earth. And this is fire dot level and earth dot level this way. And if we have this one, then the reason why I put it the fire level separated, because some of you will want to do something like this way, XP, and yeah, set up this one also, so you can increase XP wise, and this XP will increase your levels after some time. So this is also an option, you can add both of these. That's why I'm having such a long naming, but it's fine in this case. Okay, now that we have those points, remember, is the basically bold text. If you wanted to, you could have basically slashes would have been italic text. And other ones are more less important. Like I said about the headings, one is H1, H2, H3, and so on. It goes on inside here. Okay, now that we have the player stats, we can always now continue working with I put back to the main story. And for the main story, I will create a new folder called day 1. And inside day 1, I'm gonna create a new file called morning.tv. And when I have this file, we can start from scratch. And I'm gonna create a day 1. This one is gonna be more used. Okay, the first date is gonna be, well, basically acting as a start point, but later on the days could be also counted as a debug system, which you can use later on for debugging. And inside here I will add tags, start and night. We will a little bit use them later on, but also you can have in add later on thing called like position, let's say, and it might be like 600, 400, and size. Might be like something like 200, 100. And this is only needed specifically for a visual scripting or some other use case. Well, it is basically not needed. I just showed you if you want to use them, how you use them here. You're simply using the Tweefree standard in this case. And yeah. And the first thing with the day, I want to actually include variables. So I want to write here, include variables. And when I have done including, I want to also add a title here. And 2 signs, 1, 2, 3. Let he start with the day of sleeping. So I will write some kind of sleeping pattern here. Okay, and later on we will also need some kind of links. And what I'm gonna do is basically create those links. And I will say, for example, you can start with a good morning. This is a message what it's gonna be, and if you put this the kind of standing one, if you remember from the link side, you can use the standing one, and after that you put the name. I will name them accordingly. Day 1, morning 1, and copy, and morning 2, and let it be, for example, a bad morning. When this one is done, we can actually now go into the coding part where we will write where are you? Test include variables. Instead of test, we will write here on day 1. And I have to recompile it, but it should keep building it for some time at least, hopefully. So it sometimes takes a bit to build it up, unless I made a bug somewhere, and well, I will just wait. Okay, it's now saying writing and building again. Come on. Yeah. The one downside, it's basically because this one, it cached the test one, it actually writes me test first, so I don't technically need it, but yeah, I need somehow to get to the day 1. I will simply duplicate the app. Really? Damn you. Okay, this one is out of cache. Usually it isn't a problem, but because I don't have anywhere to go back to, or actually you can go this, it's will be storing the old data, so I cannot refresh it because I cannot pick the new dates. Okay. Okay, now that we have this one, the caching might be an issue, so sometimes you want maybe even to turn off the caching on the web page. But if you can see, it starts off, well, basically in title, and then it gives you a links. Links are red. Red means it doesn't work. We need to make them working, and for that we will write, I will write this way, and as you can see, it became blue, meaning that it started working. You need to always watch the terminal so it isn't turned off or sometimes isn't thinking, but otherwise you don't technically need it maybe so big. You can actually make it smaller. And I will add some tags, and it's gonna be a morning tag, and maybe also yeah, it's enough, morning. So, and I'm gonna say title good morning, and then we can if you go look here, it added good morning. I go back because, well, technically it might crash the system because you're on it, but you can use it both ways. And here you can use now emg which is gonna be for the images, and say food. I will name it, it's alternative text basically, and it's located at media day 1. I'm using from the memory, and it was called table.jpg. And voila, we have the image also here. So this is relatively easy how we can handle images. I will a little bit show you later how we can a little bit manipulate them, but currently as this. We can add also video. For video you need a little bit more, it's a little bit more complex, but almost same easiness on the difficulty. Now we need to add some text, and if we want to add the text, we don't have here lots of space, so we don't want it to go like endlessly somewhere out of here behind the scenes text. We want to put them on each other so we can actually comprehend all the text at the same time, and for that case we can use a thing called no beer and finish it up somewhere. And this one will basically make text into the one line, what we write here by using enter values. So basically it ignores the breaks and puts the spaces between the breaks. So it's we can write here like this morning, and equals, because we want to say player name, we can do it relatively easy, player.name. And yeah, this morning John woke up happy. Voila. And I'm simply gonna assume that I need to add lots of text, and for that you can find one if you Google thing called lorem ipsum. It will add fake text basically you can generate for yourself in a Latin language. So I'm basically gonna say it this way, and this will add me a lot of text, and as you can see it's actually going here. Even though I clicked here enter, it's actually making use of this space. This space isn't actually needed either. It goes into one straight line because of these ones. Okay, now that we had a look this way also, we can continue. And let's say we want to do also some training. What we can do, he does during this because it was good morning, he does some fire magic training. So let's call it fire training. I'll separate it out here, so now he's doing some training here, and I'm basically now setting player fire.level, and here I can write plus plus. Plus plus means it increases the level value by 1. If you write minus minus, it will decrease the level value by 1. So you can make a relatively simple quick. You can add it here this way also. Okay. So if we now continue, then we add also a link. Let's say now we have a good day, which will take us to the evening. Or not evening, midday. And if you like, see, we will have a fire training. I will give it a space, enter, meaning that so we have a little bit space between those. Okay, And this was basically first morning. Basically, I will give it here space so it's easier to see. You might actually leave free if you want. And what I'm gonna do quickly is basically copy this one, because we are not following the story, but more like how we could make one. And if we copy this one over here, I will put some space. I'm gonna be renaming this one to 2. And this is gonna be a bad morning. And this morning woke up cranky, let's say it this way. And because of that, he didn't do any fire training, so now he continues his day like this. Okay, and if I go now back, I see 2 blues. I click here. I do see her doing lots of stuff, but he's not actually getting any stats. So if I look, fire is 0. If I go back here and look at the good morning and look at the stats, it's actually fire 1. So either case is fine for us. Okay. And now we have done this one. Because I'm separating by days, so I will be adding inside days. Actually, I won't bother this way. I will do it this way, that I will copy this morning and select this one and paste it. And now I can also rename it and rename it as a midday. Okay. And if we have this midday done, we don't need the day part at all. We will need, we have only one evening, so we don't need this one either. So it will be more or less like this. And this one will be midday 1, and it will be good day, and it will be midday, and and let's say this way, that this good day, and we also need to change this one to good evening 1, and it will be bad evening, bad evening, and good evening. And this one will be also to 2. And here we won't have any training. Let's skip this part. Let's leave this one and maybe rephrase this one. During midday, John handled and everything. Rethink well. Let's say something like that. If I go to the good day, you can see that during the midday, John handled everything well. Okay, fine. Now let's change the table, because we don't want to see the same picture over and over again. We might want to have here an cake. Let's say we can have cake 1, or we can have cake 2. Now let's say that the chocolate cake is gonna be the one if he had a good morning, and the not chocolate cake will be if he didn't have a good morning. And for that we put an conditional. And if has visited, and this has visited actually exists here, has visited, basically a passages, and if you want to put it opposite, you can say not value here in front of it, so if he didn't visit. And basically we will write here a name, which is gonna be day 1 morning 1. And this if statement has to have an ending slash if, and we put here also a conditional else. The reason why we want to put here a conditional, actually I'll do it this way, is because we want to say if he didn't, he gets this cake, because this else is actually optional in this if statement, meaning if we remove this part, the image won't be shown otherwise if the story was. So now the good day started with this chocolate, but if we go with start with the bad morning and go to the good day, we can see we get another type of chocolate, another type of cake. And with that, we had a quick overview of this conditional also. And maybe we look into the links now. And in the midday, maybe here she had basically an argument with May. And in that case, we can here add the setters, so to speak, and say simply $may dot relationship minus equals 10. Okay, and with this one we actually reduce the relationship value also. Now that we have finished up with this basically a good day, we go now to the evening part. So we create a new file and call it evening dot tweet. Actually, I have a better idea. I'll delete it and take this morning and say copy and paste, and I shall rename it to evening. We don't need the morning part. The reason why I picked the morning, because this one has 2 days inside there. So day, evening, good evening, evening with small e. I think I forgot no, I don't think I forgot that one. So it's an evening, and this is evening. So, and if it had a good evening, he did also, let's say, earth training, earth, and I'm just checking the midday. Yeah, it had the right tag. Okay. And in the evening, let's say we need here now day 2 morning 1. So we can say it's gonna be a second day morning, and bad day and board morning gonna be having morning number 2, and I will simply copy this one because I want to do the same thing here. And I will keep these ones, maybe rephrase this one for the evening. Evening for John went well. And evening for the John went badly. Okay. This way, a little bit separation here. So now it has been finished, and do I have anything else here? Yeah, the table is fine. Let the table be. Okay, maybe I update the table also. So let's go back here, the if statement. I will actually copy this one. I will probably want to do it this way, so I can do this way. Because it uses indentation, I'm putting the else here a little bit away. That one. But let's go back to the evening. And inside the evening, I put this if conditional. I take this one out and replace it with this one and say if. And let's say it this way that if player, let's say fire dot level was greater or equal than 1. In that case, this table will be shown on the good evening and the bad evening, otherwise it won't. So if it didn't do great training, so it will not have this kind of good day. Okay, and if we have this one, we have actually done this kind of day. And now if we go, we can say good day, meaning we can have an argument somebody, and this goes back to bad day. And as you can see, because I had the fire event, I can see it. If I have the bad morning and didn't get training done, and if I now go to the good evening, I don't have actually this picture here. I have too much spacing here. I still have too much spacing, so I might want to have here no beer surrounded with, but I will skip this part for now. So I could reuse this one also. So let's go back. Now we should add something called new file, and what we can do here is we can actually compile not only TV files, but we can also compile CSS files and JavaScript files, which will be added automatically to the system. And for now, I will say simply main.css. So you don't actually have to write a special condition, and simply combine this way, which will be easier for the code readers to also to understand. And inside here, what I want to deal with is actually the images, because currently the images are too big for me, so I will put some things on it. And because I know this is located, this image is under passages, so I write passages, and here I will leave a space because I don't know how deep it is the image is gonna be. And I will put comma here because I want to do same thing for the video should I have it later on. Video. And after that I put braces, and now this is full CSS, so if you know how to write it, it will be easy for you. And I will use a property called max height equals, for example, 400 pixels. And if you can see, the image size automatically actually decreased. Second one, what I will show you is how to use tags to your advantage. So you can write comments this way, tags. So this one will also actually start with passages. Everything for me starts with passages. Morning, and this is the morning tag what we actually added, so this one will be actually used, and I will specifically affect only H2 titles. And inside here, what I want to say, actually I want to say comma first, and add here the other ones, this and this. I have to rewrite it again and again. Evening, let's say midday and night. And when I have this one, I want to actually set the text color to black, and hopefully if you see now it's black, and now I want to see text align center, so it will put it inside the center. Now this is only the start. The second part is actually creating a gradient, so we can tell the difference between time of the day. So I'm gonna be writing now here following passages dot morning. You can repeat it, the previous one, it will basically overwrite the previous one. And there's a thing called background image, and I will call it a thing called gradient, and say around at 20% from the left, and in the bottom I'm starting to create basically a sun, which is gonna be yellow, and it will be surrounded with red colors. And I don't, okay, here is the bad morning. As you can see, the sun starts from here and goes to this here. I probably need to say it's a circle also, so it will take more spherical approach, and yeah, maybe it's gonna be fully in the left. It looks like really, yeah, something like that. And now I copy, I will do 4 of these and say evening. It's gonna be on the right side, and during the day the colors will midday, it was the tag, and during the midday it's gonna be different colors, so it's gonna be yellow, light yellow, and blue. And this one will be located at the center top. So center and top. And this one will have, I need to actually see the day. As you can see, it's currently like this. I will slightly modify it so I can set let's set it 40 pixels, and this one maybe 41 pixel, and oh boy, and this one will be probably 120 pixels. So something like that, so you can see that it's more like a daylight. You can actually set up those same things for the initial ones also. So if you want, if you go back, we can set it maybe even for this one. Let's say don't have this one in the beginning. Well, it doesn't really want to change. Okay, and the last one, what I want to change is this one, and this one basically is gonna be, we can set it simply default values blue to blue. So it's gonna be nighttime. This one is actually overriding it, so maybe dark blue, so it will have a little bit of, yeah, a little bit of this tonality, and center. So in the center it's gonna be blue and dark blue on the corner, so we know it's more like this kind of dark, maybe even black. Let's see. Yeah, this is good night. Okay, should be renamed to the night. Okay, this way. So now that we have created these ones, I will put it here to hold. We have this kind of night regime where it's basically sleeping here. You might maybe, yeah, it's fine actually for night. It's gonna be good morning, sun comes out from here. You say good day, it's gonna be on top of it, and during the good evening it will be on the other side. And this pattern can actually continue as long as you tag them correctly, so you can use it, reuse it oftentimes. Okay, and now we want to do is basically copy day 1 and paste it into the day 1 and to day 2. And if we have this one in the morning, it's gonna be day 2. I think in this case we can kind of skip this one, and it's gonna be day 2, everything else stays the same here. This is gonna be day 2, it's morning, good morning. Yeah, let's this way, and this way. You might be you will end up changing a lot of more, but for our case it's enough if we change only these values. So morning has been changed. Let's go to the midday. Midday is gonna be day 2. It's a nice day. Okay, day 2, and fine. And let's go to the evening. 2. And this is gonna be day 3 and day 3, day 3, day 3, and day 2. Okay. And we have second day now. And as you can see, we can basically continue, say good morning, it's gonna be good day, good evening. And we're in the cycle. We shouldn't be in. Somewhere is a typo. Day 2 evening. Day 2 evening. Day 2 midday. Day 2 evening. Day 2, and maybe in the morning. Okay, I forgot here this one. This should break the cycle and work more properly now. And also I will go into the midday and to the evening of a day 2, and instead of here I will say like oh yeah, let's say it this way. If it's 1, it's gonna be if it's 1, it's gonna be basically yeah, let's say it this way. If it's 1, it's gonna be this way, and else, if we can use else if, meaning it's another condition, in which case inside this condition we will say if layer dot fire dot level is greater than equal than 2, it will show us this image, the other image here. So it will show us table. Instead of table, it will show us, for example, what it is, table 3. Okay, like this. Okay, and now if I click here, good day, good evening. Oh, I keep forgetting to change the food, but okay, it's a 3. And the issue which is as is the days. I need to set it up to day 2. So now if I update, I can simply upload only the day 2 files. I don't need to upload these ones. Only thing is I need the index and the media files. Everything else is not needed to be, is already, everything here is compiled to the index file, so you don't need it for anything else with you. But here, but if you want to work on a smaller grasps at the same time, what you can do is go to the each time to the main file, and here change the day 1 to day 2. And if we now basically restart the game, it will actually start from the day 2. As you can see, you cannot actually move because this one will take you to the day 3 morning, which you don't actually want in this case. So yeah, and So you can work only, so to speak, ignoring the day one features. You can go strictly to the day two. Only thing what you don't need like a day one feature. So you can actually say, if I can say here this way, you can also here specify not only days, but you can specify I only want here day two things. So by clicking this way, I compile it to the version where it only exists the initial one. So if I restart this one will still keep the old days, even though it doesn't have any more the data of the first day. It only works on the second day parts. And if you need to update anytime, add new variables, you simply go to the to the defaults, and here you add the variables as much you need. Okay, and this is all. You will need the day one material, media material, but I suppose it isn't really a problem for you. Most of times the issue lies with having too much of TV files rather than media files, because media files you still have to include separately. Okay, and you can actually, well, kind of export this file with all the media files, and then anything else doesn't matter. So I can actually open, can I open with, no. I can actually go and open it in an, this format also. Let's make an, let's actually move it. Let's move it a little bit. The reason why I want to move it is because I want to recompile it with a proper one, actually released version. So it will be where it was under main, day one, and because I wasn't listening currently, because I didn't have W, and now I can need to remove this one, otherwise I will run into issues. Okay, and with this one, after I have compiled it, and I can run it from here also. So I basically opened up in an editor. As you can see, I can say good morning, good day, good evening, and everything works also offline, not having a server either. The server is good when to work in real time. It doesn't have any other meaningful use. Also testing whether it works via internet, but also or not. But yeah, that's it. And if you want to ever to make a file, you simply basically compile these two ones into some kind of zip file. Yeah, let's do a more traditional zip file, which everybody has access to, definitely. So here you have traditional zip file, which is sizes, well, relatively small, luckily, because my JPEGs are also small. The size usually is relative to the media material rather than other stuff. And this is things what you need to share. And that's all for now. So if I can now, okay, hope this helped you to make this video, and have great success with Sugarcube and Tweego.